The transport shuttle docked with orbital station Kepler-7 with a metallic clang that echoed through the hull. Hana Kim pressed her face against the small window, watching the massive structure rotate slowly against the backdrop of a swirling gas giant. She had dreamed of this moment for years, but now that it was here, her stomach twisted with nervousness. "First time in a military orbital?" asked the pilot, a grizzled man with gray hair and kind eyes. "First time this far from Earth," Hana admitted. She was 24 years old, though she looked younger with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her uniform was crisp and new, marking her as a fresh recruit. The airlock opened, and Hana floated into the reception bay. The station operated on a rotation system that created artificial gravity in the outer rings. But the core sections remained in zero-G. She had grown up in orbital construction facilities where her parents worked as engineers, so the sensation of weightlessness felt like coming home. Still, she kept her movements careful and deliberate. She did not want to draw attention. Other recruits were already gathering in the bay. Hana counted representatives from at least 6 different species. There was a tall being with 4 arms and scaled skin that shimmered blue and green. Another creature had 6 legs and compound eyes that seemed to track everything at once. A group of 3 beings that looked almost like walking plants communicated in musical tones that her translator implant struggled to interpret. 5 other humans floated nearby, looking uncomfortable in the zero-G environment. One of them, a young man with sharp eyes and nervous hands, gave her a small wave. Hana nodded back. "Attention, recruits!" A voice boomed through the bay, and everyone turned to look. The speaker was unlike anything Hana had ever seen. He had 4 arms attached to a long, serpentine body covered in dark green scales. His face was angular, with eyes that gleamed like polished metal. "I am Instructor Vector of the Silith Dominion. For the next 6 months, I will determine whether you have what it takes to join the Galactic Defense Initiative." Vector moved through the zero-G bay with liquid grace, his 4 arms making subtle adjustments to his trajectory. He did not need to touch any walls or railings. His movements were precise and beautiful, like a dance. "This facility trains the elite," Vector continued. His translator made his voice sound cold and formal. "We accept only those who can master 3-dimensional combat, those who can think and move in all directions, those who are born for the void." His metallic eyes swept across the group and stopped on the human contingent. A smile that did not reach his eyes appeared on his face. "I see we have humans this cycle," he said. There was something in his tone that made Hana's jaw tighten. "How ambitious." One of the plant-like beings made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. Several other aliens exchanged glances. "Let me be clear," Vector said, moving closer to the human group. "Humans are a gravity-bound species. You evolved on a planet's surface. You have no tails for balance, no extra limbs for maneuvering, no natural ability to sense spatial dimensions." He paused, letting his words sink in. "In my 30 years of instruction, I have never seen a human excel in zero-G combat. Most wash out in the first week." The sharp-eyed human spoke up. "Sir, we passed all the preliminary tests to get here. Tests designed for minimum competence," Vector replied dismissively. "This is advanced training. You will be competing against species that were born in space stations, that evolved in asteroid fields, that have biological advantages you cannot imagine." He gestured with 2 of his 4 arms. "I do not expect you to succeed. But the Galactic Defense Initiative believes in giving all species equal opportunity, so here you are." Hana felt anger building in her chest, but she kept her expression neutral. She had learned long ago that showing emotion gave others power over you. "Follow me to the training sphere," Vector commanded. He pushed off from a railing and glided through a wide corridor. The other species followed easily, their bodies adapted to movement in all 3 dimensions. The humans struggled, grabbing at walls and railings, their movements jerky and inefficient. Hana moved differently. She calculated her push carefully, used minimal energy, and floated smoothly after the instructor. But she made sure to touch a railing here and there, pretending to need the support. No one noticed her grace. The training sphere was enormous, at least 200 meters in diameter. Obstacles floated throughout the space, platforms rotated slowly, and holographic targets flickered in and out of existence. It was beautiful and terrifying. "This is where you will train," Vectar announced. "Watch." He launched himself into the sphere. What happened next took Hana's breath away. The instructor moved through the three-dimensional space like water flowing downhill. He spun, twisted, caught platforms with different hands while his body continued rotating, and navigated around obstacles without ever breaking his momentum. It was pure mastery. The alien recruits watched with admiration. The humans watched with something close to despair. Vectar completed his demonstration by landing on a central platform, all four arms spread wide. "That is what mastery looks like," he said. "That is what you must aspire to achieve." He pointed at the four-armed alien Hana had noticed earlier. "Borin, show them the basic navigation drill." The alien named Borin moved into the sphere. His 6 limbs gave him incredible control. He completed the course quickly, though not with Vectar's fluid grace. "Adequate," Vectar said. "Now, let us see what our human recruits can do." His smile was cruel. "You there." He pointed at the sharp-eyed young man. "Your name?" "Day Park, sir." "Attempt the basic drill, Day Park." Day pushed off the platform, but his trajectory was wrong from the start. He tumbled, grabbed desperately at a passing obstacle, and barely managed to catch himself. His face flushed red with embarrassment as he slowly, clumsily made his way through the course. It took him 4 times longer than Borin. "As expected," Vectar said. Several aliens made sounds of amusement. "Humans lack the necessary biology. You are simply not built for this environment." Hana watched quietly, her mind analyzing every movement she had seen. She understood now what she was dealing with. This instructor did not just doubt humans, he actively wanted them to fail. "Does anyone else wish to humiliate themselves?" Vectar asked, his metallic eyes scanning the human group. Hana remained silent, but her hands curled into fists at her sides. "Not yet," she thought. "Let him think he's right. Let him believe humans are weak. Her time would come." The first week at Orbital Station Kepler-7 was brutal for the human recruits. Every morning they gathered in the training sphere while Instructor Vectar designed exercises that seemed specifically meant to highlight their weaknesses. The alien species glided through the drills with natural ease while the humans stumbled and struggled. Hana watched everything carefully. She participated in the group exercises, but she always held back, never showing her true abilities. At night, in the human quarters, she listened to her fellow recruits complain about the unfair treatment. "He hates us," said D. Park, floating near his bunk in the sleeping area. The station's rotation created partial gravity here, but it was weak enough that people could still float if they wanted to. "Every drill is designed to make us look stupid." "We're not stupid," replied Captain Mirai Yoon, the commander of the human contingent. She was a woman in her 40s with short black hair and eyes that had seen combat. "We're just different. We need to find our own methods." "What methods?" another human recruit asked bitterly. "We don't have forearms or tails or special spatial senses. We're exactly what Vectar says we are. Gravity-bound creatures trying to swim in the deep ocean." Hana remained quiet, but Mirai noticed her thoughtful expression. "You're different, Hana. You move better than the rest of us. Where did you learn that?" All eyes turned to Hana. She had been avoiding this conversation, but she could not hide forever. "I grew up in orbit," she said quietly. My parents worked on construction stations around Mars. I spent my childhood in zero-G maintenance shafts and cargo bays. So you have experience, Dai said, his eyes brightening. Can you teach us? Hana hesitated. Part of her wanted to stay invisible, to avoid Vektar's attention. But looking at the desperate faces of her fellow humans, she knew she could not stay silent. I can try, she said. Over the next few days, Hana began working with the other humans during their limited free time. She taught them to think about movement differently, to calculate trajectories instead of relying on instinct, to use their flexibility and problem-solving skills instead of trying to copy the aliens. Physics is physics, she explained today as they practiced in an empty cargo bay. It doesn't matter how many arms you have. If you understand momentum and angular velocity, you can control your movement. Day was brilliant with numbers and tactical thinking. Once Hana explained the concepts, he grasped them quickly. Soon he was helping teach the others. But in the official training sessions, Instructor Vektar's contempt only grew stronger. He seemed personally offended that the humans had not quit yet. You are wasting everyone's time, he told the human group after a particularly difficult drill. In 3 weeks, we begin combat simulations. If you cannot master basic navigation by then, you will be removed from the program. That night, Hana could not sleep. She floated in her bunk, staring at the ceiling, remembering her childhood. Her parents had been too busy to watch her constantly, so she had explored every corner of the construction stations. She had invented games in the maintenance shafts, teaching herself to move through impossible spaces. Later, when her family returned to Earth, she had felt trapped by gravity's constant pull. She had discovered zero-G dance during her university years. It was a new sport, combining gymnastics with three-dimensional movement in zero-G environments. Hana had been good at it, very good. She had won regional championships, had been invited to compete internationally, but when the Galactic Defense Initiative opened recruitment to humans, she had abandoned her dance career to join. She had never told anyone at the station about her background in zero-G dance. She wanted to be judged as a soldier, not as someone with special training. But watching her fellow humans struggle, seeing Vektar's smug superiority, she began to question that decision. The turning point came during a group exercise in the second week. Vektar gathered all the recruits in the training sphere for what he called a demonstration of advanced technique. What you are about to see, he announced, represents years of training and natural ability. I do not expect most of you to achieve this level, but it gives you something to aspire toward. He positioned himself at one end of the sphere. A platform floated at the other end, moving slowly in a circular pattern. Between them, obstacles rotated at different speeds. The objective is simple, Vektar said. Launch from this point, perform 3 complete rotations, and land precisely on that moving platform. No rails, no walls, no assistance. Without waiting, he pushed off. His serpentine body twisted through the first rotation, his 4 arms tucked tight against his torso. The second rotation was even smoother, his scales catching the light. The third rotation seemed to defy physics, his body adjusting mid-spin. He landed on the moving platform with all 4 hands touching down simultaneously, perfectly balanced. The alien recruits made sounds of appreciation. Even the humans looked impressed, though their expressions were more resigned than admiring. Vektar smiled his cold smile. This is why humans will never achieve true mastery. You lack the necessary appendages and sensory organs. He looked directly at the human group. Your biology limits you. Hana felt something snap inside her. She had been patient, had stayed quiet, had hidden her abilities. But she was tired of watching this arrogant instructor crush her fellow humans' spirits. May I try? She asked. Her voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. The training sphere went silent. Vektar's eyes widened slightly, then he laughed. It was not a kind sound. You? He said. A human wants to attempt an advanced Syleth technique? You said we should aspire to it, Hana replied. I'm aspiring. Several alien recruits made sounds that the translators interpreted as amusement. Day Park looked at Hana with worry in his eyes, but also hope. Vectar's smile grew wider. Very well. I welcome the opportunity to demonstrate the difference between natural ability and... He paused. Ambition. Hana moved to the starting position. She closed her eyes for a moment, visualizing the trajectory. She had performed far more complex movements in zero-G dance competitions. This was difficult, yes, but not impossible. She opened her eyes and looked at the moving platform. She calculated the timing, the rotation speed, the precise amount of force she would need. Then she pushed off. Her body moved through the first rotation with perfect control. Years of gymnastics training made her movements clean and efficient. The second rotation came naturally, her core muscles controlling every degree of spin. The third rotation was the most challenging, but she had done this thousands of times in practice. Hana spread her arms and legs at the exact calculated moment, killing her rotation. She extended her legs and landed on the moving platform with both feet, knees bent slightly to absorb the momentum. She had not touched a single rail. The silence in the training sphere was absolute. Hana stood on the platform, breathing calmly, and looked at Instructor Vectar. His expression had changed completely. The smug confidence was gone, replaced by shock and something that looked like anger. Impossible, he whispered. The training sphere remained silent for what felt like an eternity. Hana stood on the moving platform, her breathing steady, while every eye in the room stared at her. She had landed the impossible maneuver perfectly, without touching a single rail or wall. Instructor Vectar's four arms hung motionless at his sides. His metallic eyes were wide with disbelief. Finally, he spoke, and his voice carried an edge of anger. That was luck, he said flatly. A fortunate accident. Murmurs spread through the alien recruits. Hana could see doubt on some faces, but also curiosity. The six-limbed Krix warrior named Borin floated closer to the platform, his compound eyes studying Hana with new interest. How did you do that? Borin asked. His translator gave his voice a buzzing quality. Humans are not supposed to have such control. Hana met his gaze calmly. Humans may not have extra limbs or tails, she said, making sure her voice carried through the sphere. But we have something else. We adapt. We learn. We calculate. Enough, Vectar snapped. His serpentine body coiled with tension. I will not accept that a gravity-bound species can match Syleth technique through mere luck. He moved closer to Hana, his four arms gesturing sharply. You must have used hidden propulsion, some kind of technological assistance. I didn't, Hana said simply. Then prove it, Vectar challenged. Perform the maneuver again. This time I will have sensors monitoring for any technology. And this time I want witnesses watching every movement. Hana felt her heart rate increase, but she kept her expression calm. She had known this moment would come eventually. By revealing her abilities, she had painted a target on herself. But she was tired of hiding. Tired of watching Vectar crush human spirits with his arrogance. I'll do it, she said. Vectar's smile returned, sharp and cold. Excellent. And to make it interesting, let us add a fourth rotation. Surely if you are as capable as you claim, one more rotation should present no difficulty. Several aliens made sounds of surprise. Even Borin looked impressed by the challenge. A fourth rotation would require incredible precision and control. The margin for error would be tiny. Day Park pushed himself closer to the platform, his face worried. Hana, you don't have to do this, he said quietly. You've already proven your point. But Hana shook her head. No, I haven't. Not yet. She positioned herself at the starting point again, while Vectar activated monitoring systems. Holographic displays appeared around the sphere, showing sensor readings that would detect any technological assistance. Other instructors were summoned to witness the attempt. Even Captain Mirai Yoon arrived, floating into the sphere with a concerned expression. The pressure was enormous, but Hana had performed under pressure before. In zero-G dance competitions, every movement was judged by experts who could see the smallest mistake. This was no different. She closed her eyes and visualized the trajectory. 4 rotations meant more angular momentum to manage. She would need to control her rotation speed carefully, speeding up for the spins and slowing down for the landing. The math played out in her mind, elegant and precise. When she opened her eyes, she looked at the moving platform. It was farther away now and moving faster. Vectar had changed the difficulty level. "Whenever you're ready," the instructor said, his voice dripping with false politeness. Hana pushed off. The force of her push was greater this time, calculated for the increased distance. Her body began rotating immediately, her arms and legs tucked tight to increase rotation speed. First rotation, clean and controlled. She used the gymnastics techniques she had learned as a child, every muscle working in harmony. Second rotation. She adjusted slightly, compensating for a small trajectory error. The watching aliens would not even notice the adjustment, but she felt it. Third rotation, the critical point. She began preparing for the fourth, maintaining her rotation speed while starting to calculate the landing timing. Fourth rotation. This was the moment that would define everything. Hana spread her arms and legs at precisely the right instant, creating air resistance that slowed her rotation. Her body unfolded like a flower blooming. The moving platform rushed toward her. Time seemed to slow down. She could see every detail of its surface, could feel the exact moment when she would make contact. Her feet touched down first, her knees bending to absorb the impact. But she did not stop there. Hana allowed her momentum to continue, channeling it into a controlled handstand. Her hands touched the platform's surface, supporting her weight as her legs extended above her. Then, with a slight push, she flipped upright and landed again on her feet. It was showmanship, pure and simple. But it made the point unmistakably clear. The training sphere erupted in sound. Some aliens were clicking or buzzing or making musical noises that the translators struggled to interpret. The human recruits were cheering openly. Even some of the instructors who had been summoned to witness looked impressed. Vectar said nothing. His face was unreadable, but his 4 arms were clenched into fists. Boren floated over to Hana, his 6 limbs moving with obvious agitation. "I have trained in zero-G my entire life," he said. "My species evolved in asteroid colonies. We have natural advantages that should make us superior." He paused, his compound eyes reflecting light in strange patterns. "But I could not do what you just did. Explain this to me." Hana took a breath before answering. This was the moment she had been avoiding, but now it was time for honesty. "I grew up in orbital construction stations," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I spent my childhood learning to move in zero-G. Later, I competed in zero-G dance at the championship level." She looked around at the assembled aliens and humans. "I didn't tell anyone because I wanted to be judged on merit, not on my unusual background." "Zero-G dance?" one of the plant-like aliens asked. "What is this?" "It's a human sport," Hana explained. "It combines artistic movement with physics mastery and zero gravity. Competitors are judged on precision, creativity, and control." Captain Mirai Yoon floated forward, her expression a mix of surprise and understanding. "You're Hana Kim," she said slowly. "The Hana Kim. I saw footage of the Asian Championships 3 years ago. You won with a routine that had never been performed before." Hana nodded. "I gave up competition to join the GDI." Day Park was grinning widely. "So when Vectar said humans can't handle zero-G, you already knew he was wrong." "I knew some humans could. Hana corrected. Given proper training and understanding of the physics involved, Instructor Vector finally spoke, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. This changes nothing. You are an exception, an anomaly. One human with specialized training does not disprove the fundamental biological limitations of your species. But Hana could see doubt in the eyes of the other aliens. They had witnessed something that contradicted everything they believed about human capabilities. Seeds of doubt had been planted. If you're finished with your exhibition, Vector continued coldly, we have training to complete. Everyone return to your positions. As the recruits dispersed, Boren approached Hana one more time. Will you teach me your technique? He asked quietly. I wish to understand how you think about movement. Hana smiled. I can try, but you'll need to forget everything you know about relying on instinct. Humans don't have strong instincts for zero-G. We have to calculate everything. Perhaps, Boren said thoughtfully, that is your advantage. Across the sphere, Vector watched the exchange with narrowed eyes. Hana could feel his hostility like a physical force. She had embarrassed him in front of his students and fellow instructors. He would not forget that. News of Hana's performance spread through orbital station Kepler-7 like wildfire. Within hours, everyone knew about the human who had outperformed the veteran Silith instructor. The recreation areas buzzed with conversation, and Hana found herself the subject of intense curiosity from both aliens and humans. The other human recruits surrounded her in the common area that evening, their faces bright with renewed hope. You have to teach us, said a young woman named Jisoo. She had been struggling badly with the zero-G training. If you can do it, maybe we can too. Hana looked at the eager faces and felt the weight of their expectations. I can share what I know, she said carefully, but it won't happen overnight. It took me years to develop these skills. We don't have years, Daypark pointed out. He was floating near a table, his sharp mind already working through the problem. Combat simulations start in 2 weeks. If we don't show significant improvement by then, Vector will have grounds to remove us from the program. Captain Mirai Yoon nodded grimly. He's already looking for excuses. After today, he'll be watching even more carefully. She was right. Over the next several days, Instructor Vector's hostility toward the human contingent became impossible to ignore. He designed exercises that specifically targeted human weaknesses, pairing Hana with the most difficult alien partners and giving the humans the most challenging scenarios. But something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking under the pressure, the humans began to improve. Hana spent every free moment teaching them her approach to zero-G movement. She explained physics concepts, demonstrated techniques, and helped them understand how to use calculation rather than instinct. Think of your body as a projectile, she told Jisoo during a practice session. Every movement changes your trajectory and rotation. If you understand the cause and effect, you can control it. Jisoo tried the technique and managed to complete a rotation she had been struggling with for days. Her face lit up with joy. Daypark proved to be an excellent student. His tactical mind grasped the mathematical concepts quickly, and he started developing his own variations on Hana's techniques. Soon, he was helping teach the others. Even more surprising, several alien recruits approached Hana for guidance. Boren was the first, but others followed. They were curious about the human approach to movement, about using conscious calculation instead of biological instinct. My people rely on our 6 limbs, Boren explained during a training session. But sometimes in combat, limbs are injured. Your method would work even with damaged appendages. Hana had not considered that advantage. You're right. If you understand the physics, you can adapt to injuries or equipment failures. Their conversations were noticed. Vector watched with barely concealed fury as his alien student sought out human instruction. His 4 arms would clench whenever he saw Hana teaching a mixed group of recruits. Things came to a head during a particularly challenging drill. Vectar had designed an obstacle course that required navigating through a field of randomly moving barriers while retrieving holographic targets. The catch was that the gravity field in the training sphere fluctuated unpredictably, creating sudden pulls in different directions. Most recruits struggled with the changing gravity, their instincts confused by the fluctuations, but Hana moved through the course smoothly, adapting to each gravity change by recalculating her trajectory on the fly. She retrieved all her targets and completed the course in record time. Vectar's expression darkened. "Again," he ordered. "Double the gravity fluctuations." Hana ran the course again and improved her time. The instructor's face became a mask of cold anger. Later that day, Hana was approached by Dr. Yuna Chai, a human xenobiologist who worked at the station. Dr. Chai was a middle-aged woman with gentle eyes and an analytical mind. "I've been studying the brain scans we take during training exercises," Dr. Chai said, pulling up holographic displays. "I found something interesting about human neural activity in 0G. The displays showed colored patterns representing brain activity. Hana could see clear differences between human and alien patterns. When aliens navigate in 0G, they use these regions," Dr. Chai explained, pointing to certain areas. "These are instinctive, automatic processes. It's like breathing. They don't think about it." "And humans?" Hana asked. "Humans use completely different pathways." Dr. Chai highlighted other regions. "These are higher cognitive functions, advanced spatial reasoning, predictive calculation, complex problem solving. You're not fighting your biology, Hana. You're using your brain to compensate for what your body lacks." "And it works," Hana said slowly, understanding dawning. "It works better than instinct in many situations," Dr. Chai confirmed. "Instinct is fast, but inflexible. Calculation is adaptable. When conditions change unexpectedly, like those gravity fluctuations today, your conscious control gives you an advantage." This information changed everything. It meant humans were not inferior in 0G. They were just different. With proper training, they could match or even exceed alien performance. But that night, Hana noticed something disturbing. During a routine equipment check, several safety tethers in the human training area were found to be damaged. The damage was subtle, but it could have caused serious injuries. She reported it to Captain Yoon, who examined the tethers with a grim expression. "This isn't normal wear and tear," the captain said. "Someone did this deliberately." Over the next few days, more incidents occurred. Gravity wells fluctuated dangerously during human practice sessions. Platform trajectories changed without warning. A piece of equipment nearly struck Jisoo when its restraining field mysteriously failed. Day Park started investigating. His tactical training included basic security analysis, and he began tracing the incidents back to their source. What he discovered was troubling. "All the malfunctions require instructor-level access to the station systems," he told Hana and Captain Yoon during a private meeting. "Someone with high clearance is sabotaging our training." "Vectar," Hana said quietly. "We can't prove it," Captain Yoon replied. "But the pattern is clear. Every incident affects only humans, and they've all occurred after your demonstration embarrassed him." "What do we do?" Jisoo asked. She had joined the meeting after nearly being hit by the falling equipment. Captain Yoon's face was hard. "We document everything and stay alert, but more importantly, we continue training. The best response to sabotage is to become so skilled that his tricks don't matter." Hana agreed, but she felt a growing sense of danger. Vectar's resentment had crossed a line from professional dismissiveness to active malice. He was not just trying to prove humans inferior anymore. He was trying to force them out of the program entirely. The next day, an announcement echoed through the station. The annual Void Dance competition was approaching. a grueling zero-G challenge that pitted training cohorts from different stations against each other. The winning station's recruits received priority placement in the Galactic Defense Fleet. Instructor Vector gathered all the recruits in the assembly hall. "I will be selecting our competition team," he announced. His metallic eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Naturally, I will choose those who are biologically suited for excellence in zero-G combat." He proceeded to name 6 recruits, all aliens. Not a single human was included, not even Hana. "The humans will serve in support roles," Vector continued, "equipment management, logistics, and so forth." Captain Yoon stood up, her voice carrying authority. "I challenge that selection under GDI Regulation 774. All recruits must be given equal opportunity to compete based on demonstrated ability, not species." Vector's smile was cold. "Very well. If you wish to waste everyone's time with a formal qualifier, so be it. 1 week from today, any recruit may attempt the qualification course. The top 6 performers will make the team." He paused, and his next words carried unmistakable threat. "I will personally design the qualifier to test true zero-G mastery. We shall see how well human calculation serves against a course designed by 30 years of experience." As the meeting dispersed, Hana caught Vector watching her with an expression that sent chills down her spine. This had become personal for him. He would not just make the qualifier difficult, he would make it specifically designed to break human recruits. Dai Park moved close to Hana as they left the hall. "He's going to throw everything at us," he whispered. "I know," Hana replied. "We need to be ready. Can you beat whatever he designs?" Hana thought about the sabotage, the deliberate malice, the systematic attempts to crush human spirit. She thought about Jisu's joy when she finally mastered a difficult maneuver. She thought about the alien recruits who had started learning from humans, breaking down old prejudices. "I have to," she said simply. "We all do." The week before the qualifier was the most intense training period Hana had ever experienced. She worked with the other humans every spare moment, pushing them to master techniques that normally took months to learn. Jisu improved dramatically, her natural athleticism finally finding expression in the zero-G environment. Dai Park's mathematical mind helped him develop efficient movement patterns that compensated for his lack of instinctive grace. But Hana knew it might not be enough. Vector was designing the qualifier specifically to defeat them, and he had decades of experience to draw from. On the morning of the qualifier, the training sphere was packed with spectators. Recruits from other programs had come to watch, along with station personnel and even some civilians who had heard about the human who had challenged Silith's superiority. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Instructor Vector stood at the center of the sphere, his 4 arms spread wide in greeting. His metallic eyes scanned the crowd with satisfaction. "Welcome to the qualifier," he announced. "The course you see before you represents the pinnacle of zero-G challenge. It will test not only physical ability but mental endurance, spatial awareness, and the capacity to function under extreme stress." Hana studied the course and felt her heart sink. It was far more complex than anything they had trained for. Obstacles moved in unpredictable patterns, platforms appeared and disappeared, and holographic hazards filled the space. Worse, the entire course was bathed in a dim, flickering light that made depth perception nearly impossible. "Each candidate will have 1 attempt," Vector continued. "The course must be completed within 10 minutes. The top 6 times will form our competition team." He paused, and his smile became predatory. "Let us begin." The first candidate was one of the plant-like aliens. Despite having multiple sensory organs that could detect spatial variations, the flickering light and complex obstacle patterns proved challenging. The alien completed the course but took nearly 9 minutes. Boren went next. His 6 limbs gave him advantages. but even he struggled with the unpredictable movements and poor visibility. He finished in 7 minutes, looking exhausted. One by one, the alien recruits attempted the course. Most completed it, though their times varied. A few had to give up when they became disoriented in the confusing environment. Then came the first human attempt. A young man named Tae Yang pushed off the starting platform with determination. Within 30 seconds, he was hopelessly lost in the three-dimensional maze. He grabbed at obstacles, his movements becoming increasingly panicked as the flickering lights destroyed his sense of direction. After 5 minutes of struggle, he gave up and returned to the starting point, his face red with shame. Vectar's smile widened. As predicted, humans lack the necessary sensory apparatus for this level of challenge. Jisoo tried next. She had improved dramatically under Hana's training, but the qualifier was beyond her current skill level. She managed better than Taeyang, lasting nearly 8 minutes before she had to admit defeat. She floated back to the human group with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered to Hana. "I tried." "You did well," Hana assured her. "This course is deliberately designed to be almost impossible." Day Park was the third human to attempt. His tactical mind helped him analyze the obstacle patterns, and he made it farther than the others. But the poor lighting defeated him in the end. He could not see the obstacles clearly enough to calculate safe trajectories. He finished the course, but took over 12 minutes, which disqualified him. Only Hana remained from the human contingent. Captain Yoon approached her, concern written on her face. "You don't have to do this," the captain said quietly. "Vectar designed this course to be impossible for humans. There's no shame in acknowledging when a challenge is unfair." But Hana shook her head. "If I don't try, he wins. Not just today, but forever. He'll use this as proof that humans can never match other species in 0G. She moved to the starting position, ignoring the whispers from the crowd. She could feel Vectar's eyes on her, could sense his anticipation of her failure. Then, just as she was about to push off, Vectar's voice echoed through the sphere. "Wait. I think we should make this more interesting." Hana turned to look at him, suspicion growing. "You claim to have special abilities," Vectar said, his tone falsely pleasant. "Let us truly test them. I am activating expert mode for your attempt." New obstacles appeared throughout the course. The dim lighting became even darker, reducing visibility to almost nothing. The movement patterns of the platforms increased in speed and complexity. The holographic hazards multiplied. Gasps came from the spectators. Even some of the alien instructors looked shocked. This was not just difficult, it was designed to be impossible. Captain Yoon started to protest, but Hana held up a hand to stop her. She looked at Vectar and saw the challenge in his eyes. He wanted her to quit, to admit defeat, to prove that humans were inferior. "I accept," Hana said calmly. She turned back to face the course. In the near darkness, she could barely see the first set of obstacles. This would require every skill she had ever developed, every technique she had mastered, every lesson learned from years of 0G dance and orbital living. She closed her eyes. In the darkness, vision was almost useless anyway. Instead, she relied on something else, spatial memory and physics calculation. She had watched every previous attempt, had mapped the obstacle patterns in her mind, had calculated the trajectories. Hana pushed off. The world became a blur of movement and calculation. She could not see the obstacles clearly, but she knew where they should be based on the patterns she had observed. Her body moved through rotations and adjustments, each movement precise and controlled. An obstacle appeared suddenly in the darkness. Hana twisted, her reflexes sharp from years of training. She missed it by centimeters. She continued forward, her mind working faster than conscious thought. Every movement was a calculation, every rotation a carefully measured response to momentum and position. When the course patterns changed unexpectedly, she adapted, recalculating on the fly. The spectators watched in stunned silence. Even in the near-total darkness, Hana moved with fluid grace. She was not just completing the course, she was dancing through it. A platform disappeared just as she reached for it. Most recruits would have been thrown off balance, would have tumbled into the obstacles. But Hana adjusted instantly, using the momentum from her reaching movement to spin into a new trajectory. 5 minutes passed, 6, 7. Hana's muscles burned with effort. Sweat covered her face, but she did not slow down. She could sense the end of the course approaching, could feel the final challenge waiting. The last obstacle was a narrow gap between rotating barriers, barely wide enough for a person to pass through. In the darkness, finding the gap was nearly impossible. The timing had to be perfect. Hana did not hesitate. She had calculated the rotation speed, had mapped the gap's position in her mind. She tucked into a tight spin, her body becoming as small as possible, and threaded through the gap with millimeters to spare. The finish platform appeared ahead, rotating slowly. Hana aligned her trajectory one final time, killed her rotation, and landed with both feet touching down simultaneously. Silence filled the training sphere. Then, slowly, a sound began to build. It started with one person clapping, then another, then dozens. Within seconds, the entire crowd was applauding. Even some of the alien instructors looked impressed. Hana checked the timer. 6 minutes and 47 seconds. It was not just a completion, it was the fastest time of the day. She looked at Vector. The instructor's face had gone completely blank, all emotion carefully controlled. But she could see his forearms trembling slightly. Captain Yoon was smiling widely. Day Park was cheering. Jisoo had tears of joy running down her face. But the real surprise came from Borin. The 6-limbed Krix warrior floated over to Hana, his compound eyes reflecting the dim light. "That was impossible," he said quietly. "In near-total darkness, with obstacles you could barely see, with a course designed to make you fail." He paused. "How did you do it?" Hana took a deep breath before answering. "I stopped trying to see with my eyes. I saw with my mind instead. I mapped the course from watching the other attempts, calculated the patterns, and trusted the physics." "You memorized the entire course? All the patterns and movements?" Borin sounded amazed. "It's what humans do," Hana replied. "When our bodies are limited, we use our minds to compensate." Other recruits began to gather around, asking questions, wanting to understand. Even some who had initially mocked the human contingent now looked at Hana with respect. Vector finally spoke, his voice tight with barely controlled emotion. "The results are recorded. Corporal Hana Kim has qualified for the team." He paused, clearly forcing out the next words. "As have 3 other human recruits who performed adequately in other sections." Hana's heart leaped. She had not been paying attention to the full results, but apparently Day Park, Jisoo, and another human named Minho had managed to place in the top 6 through their earlier performances, combined with improvement shown during training observations. "The team will begin integrated training tomorrow," Vector announced coldly. "Dismissed." As the crowd dispersed, Hana felt a mixture of triumph and worry. She had proven that humans could compete at the highest levels, but she had also made an enemy of someone with significant power and influence. Vector would not forgive this humiliation easily.